Today we're going to talk about music synchronization rights, licensing, placings. What is sync? What can it do for my career? What will I get paid? How does it work? In other words, what do I as a songwriter have to do to get my music on, say, Grey's Anatomy or True Detective and so on? To answer this, we have a brilliant panel today. Most experienced people. I'd like to welcome from Sony ATV UK, Creative Licensing Manager Jon Pugh.
Hiya.
See over here.
Hello.
Welcome, Jon.
Oh.
Not Pugh, Pugh is your last name?
Pugh.
Pugh.
But I answer to everything. So.
I get association to different kind of, I'm not going into that either. Have you ever spelled it another way? No.
Not on purpose.
No, nobody misunderstood it either.
No. Pugh is normal.
Pugh, yeah. All right. Pugh is the word. So representing the production music CEO and owner of ExMS Music in Scandinavia, I might add, Mimi Bashiri. Welcome. And also from UK, prize-winning, I might say, independent music supervisor Ian Cook. Come on.
Hello.
Have a seat over here. And representing the record company side, sync and licensing manager from Warner Music Scandinavia, all know her, Eva Hellefors. So, let's start from the beginning, the most essential question. I figure we'll go from the basic and up, and you'll just steer along. If you want to have more specific details, you just ask. What is sync? We'll go first to Jon. How would you describe it?
So it's the marrying audio to video, basically. The sort of what is produced when you put those two things together is a synchronization or synchronization. Mm-hmm. It's as easy as that. It's on across all different types of media. But that's the basic bit. Mm. So.
Any other definitions that you want to add?
Music to picture.
Couldn't said it better.
Yeah, Eva.
Oh, good start. Yes.
Right. So we just agree on that, and then we'll go like. And the most essential question is: you all come from different areas in this field. You're representing different things. Could you describe shortly? We start with Jon. What your work is consisting of, and in your position. And maybe some of the people you work with, so we know the level of it.
Yeah, I work in our Sony ATV, their UK office. It's my job to go out and meet producers and directors for films, TV shows, advertising, trailers, and just sort of form a bond and relationship with them, so that then they come to me and say, "We've got this project coming up. Can you suggest some music?" There's lots of bits attached to that, but that's sort of that's the main thrust of it.
And to be represented by you, you have to, of course, have a deal with Sony.
Yes,
yeah,
so I would only be able to operate with Sony ATV catalog.
And Mimi, your role?
Yeah, for us it's similar, but we work with something called production music, which is we have both the rights, both the copyright and the master rights. So when we go out to clients and sell our music and create the bonds, and then it's for everything. So that's the difference.
And the music, we say production music, is everybody aware what production music is? The music that is actually created for this purpose.
Especially composed for this kind of purpose. So our music is not, how shall I say, produced to be mainly for entering Billboard hits or doing anything like that. It's actually specially produced to be put and placed into production. So that's, I guess, our advantage, and that's what our main thing with the repertoire.
Cheaper?
Yes. In most cases.
In most cases, yes. And Ian, you are actually prize-winning independent music supervisor of the year in TV. No pressure here, but please tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, so I work on the other side of the fence. So I work in the edit with the directors and the editors, actually choosing or helping to choose the music to go on predominantly TV and film. Some of the projects I'm working on at the moment, I'm doing this, I don't know if you saw the Senna documentary by Asif Kapadia about Ayrton Senna, but his new project is about the life of Amy Winehouse, and it's all archive from when she was a young girl through to the end. I'm doing a film called Autobahn, which was shot over in Germany and stars Anthony Hopkins and Ben Kingsley, which is quite a big film. And a few TV projects, including one called Spotless, which is a 10-parter for Canal Plus.
And you work towards guys like Ian and Mimi. John and Mimi.
Yeah, so once we select the music, then we go to try and license it, so we negotiate and contract with people like John and Mimi.
And me.
And you.
And Eva, representing the record company side of it all, as a sync and license manager, what do you do?
Right, because if I take it basically, probably everyone knows that there are two rights holders. As Sony ATV is a publisher, I work on the master side, the recorded music side. So I represent the artist, which is usually the singer or the band. And we have recorded the music once because they're obviously, I work with the signed bands at Warner Music. And I also do licensing, and I have Scandinavia as a territory, my local territory, but I work with local music also internationally. But in our case, and I think in Sony ATV case and publishing cases, we have offices all over the world. So I pitch music to Swedish, Norwegian clients, but when it comes to international outside of the Scandinavia, I go to the local office, the Warner office, and they do the actual pitching towards the client. But I send them music and try to make them aware of what we have here in Scandinavia. And then I also do the licensing, the agreement and everything. And so that, yeah.
So, just, speaking about sync, Eva, as you said, what is when I talked to you on the phone before, you said something about, people could call you up, seeing the songs on the website and so on, like, could I use your music here, or could you sell my music? How do people approach you when it comes to sync?
It's different. A lot of people have to say every day I have to explain the difference. They say you have an orchestra is gonna play this song in a movie. Okay, it's not ours. It's not our recorded music, because then it needs to be our recording, obviously, because otherwise I can't license it. And then I need to see if it is really ours, because we are millions of songs, and for over, like EMI is part of Warner, and it started like in the beginning of the 1900s. So we have a lot of music. So really need to establish that we own the rights in what territories. Usually people phone me up or mail me.
Yeah.
So that's the way it starts, and they have a project going. Sometimes I talk to someone and I ask them obviously what they have going on, and then I could find out, and I could pitch music that is, they're usually want some kind of theme song or something from a specific era, or so it can go both ways. I could sell in music while they want something else, but it's usually a phone call or an email.
But it is a hierarchy as well. You can't just cut through the chase if you want to use some kind of music in a different part of the world and so on. You have to call up the different offices and so on.
Yeah, I could see that who is the owners. I can help them find out the publishing. But then in the end, I need to go to the local office. If it's an American song, I need to go to our American office and tell them. And sometimes they come to me with a Swedish song, obviously, but it's an American client, and then I need to reroute them via US, because we would not be happy if we had people running around, approaching our clients. Like if a German person comes and do that, we really want to be involved, because we need to be involved in the end anyway, because we hold the rights. So.
It's the same for you, John.
Yeah, very very much the same. It's there are a number of ways of getting in touch with us and trying to clear some music. Email or call the office is a fairly standard one, but we like to think that in the UK we've got quite a big team, and so we like to think that we know most of the people that will be using the music, and it's all, as I said earlier, about sort of having those bonds and relationships. It's great to be able to sort of say to Ian, do you want to get a coffee? What are you coming up with next? Oh, it's a film about this, I don't know, the deep south of America. We've got all of these tracks that would fit. We've got this sort of repertoire and catalogue that would be appropriate, and then take it from there. I think it's not the getting in touch with us isn't the difficult process. It's it's the picking the song and making sure the right songs that in the film is the fun bit, sort of thing.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
Don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, it's important to sort of respect the media, so and the sort of the storyline. So I deal with a lot of films, and it's important to make sure like the song wasn't released 10 years after the film is set and stuff like that. We have.
Does that really matter nowadays?
I think so. Yeah, I think that it will really matter to one or two people, and it could ruin their film if they're watching a film set in 1960 and there's a song that's out in 1970.
Suddenly I get this image of this movie with Heath Ledger riding on a horse in the armor, and they play like, what was it, some rock song like Queen or something.
I think, yeah, I think like, I mean, there are some films that sort of creatively go with it, like
Great Gatsby or something.
Yeah, Great Gatsby or Moulin Rouge, where the music is obviously not of the time it's set, but there are certain films where it's important to have the right era. Yeah. We've got a system with all our music on, and it's all sort of tagged, so you could sort of go, oh, we need hip hop from 1989 from America, and we can sort of put that in, and it'll produce a sort of a playlist that's appropriate to the client at the end of the day.
Yeah, we'd like to feel it. How do you work? How do you pick it?
I mean, on that point, one of the dramas that I do is a period drama called Call the Midwife. So it's absolutely imperative that we're currently in 1960, that all the music is released from 1960, and not even, 1960 or before, and even like spring 1960 versus summer. You know, it's very important as a detail. And also you've got to be conscious that, say, from a publisher's point of view, there might be several recordings of one song. So there might be that song that was released in 1958, but on the master side there might be the exact same version or a slight difference from 1972. So it's an important part of the job, yeah.
But when it comes to the actual feel of it, how you pick it, or how do you work creatively? Is there a formula? Is there something that you come back to, or?
There are certain songs that work really well for sync.
Like
I mean, Pumpin' Blood by No No No, just that whistly sort of catchy hook works great for sort of promos and adverts. It's difficult to say. I don't know if there's no sort of formula to it, unfortunately. It's just a case of sort of, for me, it's just learning as much of the catalogue as possible, knowing as much about the background of the music as possible, so that you can suggest something that's appropriate. And
Yeah, and it's also knowledge of the client, because it's so subjective. What is rock for a person? Is it hard rock, or is it metal, or is it indie rock? So you really need to understand, if they have like kind of a vision, what do they actually mean? So that could be difficult, but it's also when you work with clients a lot, you tend to get them after a while. But on the other hand, this business is so strange, because there are not like an appointed person in a production company or a bureau that actually, pick the music. It could be picked anywhere along the line. It could be someone editing, the film, and they just discover they need a song, or so that it's really. The music, I think, still is coming in really late in the process, and it's something I try to work to people to understand. And in my work, I obviously want them to use original art, recorded music. So I try to, make them see the value of, because obviously a song could make a huge difference in an advert, and. But still, it's really difficult to know who's going to pick the song and when. Someone likes Coldplay, they want Coldplay, but it's not really suitable. But still, they want Coldplay.
And then you have to convince them otherwise. Yeah. We got a question from the person over here.
I obviously talk from my point of view. But I would say it's really strange that you come like you need to have a clearance in a big song in 24 hours, and they don't have any money left because they spent it all on George Clooney on a beach in Haiti, or on helicopters, and so it comes in really late. For us, it could be a bit of sometimes they end up with problems. They can't clear the song they wanted from the beginning, and then they need to, pick another song, and that it's also coming in really late in the process. But I would say it's obviously the films is that's a longer production period. Commercial and other could be really like you need a fast clearance, but films usually they could have like the opening 1 year later. But then on the other hand, they could edit it away, so in the end they don't use the song that you cleared.
So well, that's an answer to your question, that it's basically they down prioritize the music, as I see it. From the
Obviously we think so.
I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule. I mean, I know what you mean about it does come in late. There's films that I work on over an 18-month period. I mean, always the best projects are the ones that the director or the producer get you involved even before they go. I read scripts over 3-4 drafts, and then they go into prep, and then they go into production, and then they go into post production. And so they're the best films that actually pay attention to the timescale and get me or someone similar involved early. But you're right in as much as even the creative choices that are made and the different layers. Quite often a piece of music could have been in there for the whole period. It could have been scripted, it could have been edited to it, but then someone up the chain decides they don't like it or they want to take it in a different direction, and that's where you have to be adaptable and go and change it.
But why is that, though, the essential question? I was going to ask you a question later, maybe, but the way that is perceived then that the music, is it even included in the budgets from the beginning, from the commercial side and so on, or why is it your experience, is it that people actually come up with the idea, oh, we have to have some music, or is it just that they don't know what to pick, or why? No, I mean, why is it so hard?
Particularly in film, it's always budgeted. It's always a line in the budget, but because it's one of the very, very last pieces in the process to be completed, what you find is that they, let's say it's £1 million film, and they might have £50,000 or £100,000 for the music in it. Then what happens is they might have had to reshoot a scene or something. The edit process might have gone on for 2 or 3 weeks or months longer than it was, and it's all eating into that. The only piece of the budget that they haven't spent is the music, and that's why sometimes it suffers.
Mind you, that's why we're here today, because there couldn't be any commercials without the music.
Yeah, and I think the filmmakers and the clients, they understand that music is crucial to the sort of how the film is perceived, but as Ian says, like it's the last thing that gets paid for usually. And trailers are slightly different to films; they have a slightly different budget, and so there's usually less money taken out of the trailer budget, which means that in the UK, the trailer fees are much higher than they would be for the main body of the film fees. I mean, for advertising, because an advert might be worked on for a couple of months, there's a much higher chance of there being a higher percentage of the music budget still there, ready for the music. Does that make sense?
But Mimi, when they approach you, it's from a different angle, I guess, because your music is production music.
Yeah, sometimes when they approach us, it's either, I would say, in the beginning, when they, have a guidance track or a reference track, and if we're lucky, they keep it. They like it so much, they keep it. But then often I would say, out of experience, a lot of the times when the client's budgets have run out, or they can't afford this very expensive track for a commercial, for instance, or if the record company says yes and the publishing company says no, they can't actually license the track, then it's an occasion when they will come to us, as an example.
Before we go into that specific dealing and wheeling about the different agreements, I guess, what do they usually say? I'm kind of wondering, do they say like, oh, we need something like Coldplay, or we need something with the whistling and the clapping, or how is the idea presented to you?
Yes, I think that's sort of right. I mean, again, it's a range of things. Sometimes people go, we just want something that's released in the charts at the moment, and then it's sometimes it's we want something that references Jesus and has a Hammond organ, and like that's when you have to sort of
Interpret it?
yeah. There's no interpretation there. It's just a hell of a lot of searching. It's almost like, and then sometimes you get people sort of coming to you and saying, really wanted Guns N' Roses or something like that, but for whatever reason we couldn't do the deal on that. Have you got anything similar?
Yeah.
That's common, but.
But they usually ask for something that's hip or something that they know, or are they open? My follow-up question is, are they open to something that you suggest that is brand new or something that you would like to push?
I think if there's a sort of an element of trust, I mean, as I say, it's all about these relationships. So if they trust you and you say, look, this would be good, the record company is about to release the album, they're putting a lot of promo behind it, then and it will be really sort of symbiotic, I suppose, then it's an easy sell to sort of say, this will give you a lot of.
I would say that for us, we have the marketing department that actually, as you say, spend money because they're going to deserve the single to radio, and they want to sell that specific song. So they are more than happy if a new song gets picked. Yeah. Obviously, and everyone, the A&R comes to me every day, every week, and say like, "Oh, we got this new song. It's so syncable." And
you go,
well, we'll see about that. But the truth is that it's like, for me, it's like 95% is old catalog music, and the pitches are usually a bit vague. And if I would generalize a lot, and now you have to say if I'm wrong, but I would say that they want a happy song more than melancholic song. They don't want too much lyric, not political lyrics, or they much is like coming together, happy, we're building, we're strong, surviving, so if it's too much, like if the lyrics is too hard, it's more difficult. So hip-hop songs could be difficult for an instance,
because they have a preconception of the value of the song or the meaning of the song, the message.
Sometimes they want to have a specific lyric because it fits in the and now I talk mainly commercials now, because in movies it could be more more variety of song they pick. But
and I would say also with regards to our music, since it's specially composed for film or for sync, I guess it's not so much emphasis on the lyrics. We have lyrics, but on all tracks we have instrumental versions, or just with less lyrics, and with cut downs ready and everything, and also stems if you want to rearrange it yourself. So it's a lot of those extra tools.
Because that is one thing you have to be aware of as a songwriter and artist, that if they want to squeeze a song of yours into a commercial, they might want to edit it. And they want to have an instrumental because they're going to have a voiceover selling a product. So I would say not all things are good for an artist. I wouldn't say that, because
we hang on to that. Before we go into that, I mean, now we're talking about compromises and conflicts and all that juicy stuff that would be. The gentleman over here.
I wouldn't say it's a difference between independent or like major labels. I work for a major label, so I deal with those most. But it's all come down to it. They are people. They're artists, are people, and they have opinions about some. It's really, I can't see any difference really.
Ian, I'm interested in knowing what your take is on that. Is it easier to deal with an established catalog versus?
I mean, no. I must admit that I'm quite independently minded. My background is independent labels, and I kind of, without detriment to any major label, I kind of do like supporting independent music, and I think maybe it's just a perception. It does totally depend on the project, but if I'm doing a very, very contemporary drama, I think it's maybe more interesting to push music that people don't necessarily know already, and then it becomes a feature of the show. I think one of the things that I would always say to people who send me music is send me music as early as you possibly can, because generally I work on a project now and it won't be on screen for another 9 months. So I think the difficulty with the major labels is because there's so much invested in it, and they've got to be very protective of their artists. So you might find that actually a major label or publisher might send you an album 1 week before or even on the day of release, because they don't want it getting leaked. Not that anyone in my role would leak music. Whereas I think independent music, and this isn't a general rule, but I think they would, people send me saying, oh, it's not mastered yet. Here's a song, and then they'll send it me 2 months later. Oh, here's the mastered version, and here's an instrumental, and then it might come out in 6 months' time. And for me, I think part of my job is to try and make the music interesting. I think if you were going to go and turn on whatever the biggest radio station in Sweden now and hear that song, to me, anyone could do that. Anyone could just go, oh, let's put that song on the radio in this scene. Whereas I think my job is to try and think slightly outside of the box and put something on there that's interesting and help people discover music.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you basically asked if it was harder to getting through to the majors, because I'm thinking about the time range as well. I mean, using a song, if it's old, it's one thing, it's a catalog song. But there's a time range within the deal if it's going to hit the streets or if they're going to be used in a certain way.
I mean, there's no, as far as dealing, I never think, oh, that's with an independent or that's with a major. You just think about the song. There's no difference. No.
But you hang on to that Eva said before, that if you are pitching a song to a sync deal, you're supposed to deliver, you're supposed to be aware that they can do things with it. They can edit it, it can be used in different ways. Are you supposed to deliver like an instrumental version and stems and so on? What is required from the songwriter?
From the songwriter, it's really useful that you give an instrumental version as well when you deliver your music. Stems we don't really have stems at Sony ATV because the song is the song, but an instrumental version is definitely very useful for sync. And then in other boring things, like just making sure that everything is registered, all the songwriters are registered, and they're all known to a company, or or if they've got management, being able to being able to give all the information required when someone comes to you and goes, I'd like to license this song, who do I need to get in touch with? It's so powerful to be able to go, you need to contact this company, that company, that company. We have some songwriters that sort of have 2% on a song and nobody knows where they are and how to get in touch with them, and that then becomes a little bit difficult.
You're laughing now.
I don't want Ian to go into that too deeply. It tends to be like it tends to be sort of like old artists or old songwriters that maybe only had one hit. Maybe they're the ones that are difficult to get in touch with, but you sort of don't really have the excuse of that nowadays, I suppose.
So how long does it take for you to clear a deal? The most optimistical thing, or the usual thing is it a day? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 4 months?
We have one approval party that will respond in 40 seconds. He'll go, yep, great. And that's the ideal. I would usually suggest that like sort of a week would be acceptable. Anything more than that, and you start sort of alarms start going off. Yeah, and it's always useful to if you are clearing music, it's always useful to think, what's my backup? Should I be clearing a backup track as well? And also, if you are the person who is having their music cleared for something, if you're slow, then clients move along. Like it really is key if you get that sync request as a manager or as a songwriter, that you look at it and get a response out pretty quickly.
Good.
Is that fair?
Would you like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people in the audience represent their own catalogue or are labels.
Let's check with them. How many are representing yourselves?
Oh, wow.
Are you independent musicians, songwriters as well? And companies, publishing companies? Quite a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that point, the most attractive thing that you can do is be very, very quick to react. I mean, no one minds hearing no if you know straight away. I think it's frustrating if you let things. I think there's a slight difference between going to Jon for a big copyright in a big film, and it's a very considered thing. I think if someone like myself was going to come to you and you own your own master, the fact that you could say, yes, we control it 100% for the world, we can clear this, both master and publishing, yes, that's music to my ears, because we could do the deal same day. I think that's very, very powerful. I think what you don't want to do is say, yes, this is no problem, and then I do realise that there's 1.4% of some writer that disappeared in 1982 and no one's seen since, because that's going to mess up our projects. But it's very, very attractive. If I'm looking at certain cues within films or TV, it's very, very attractive to know that this is with someone who I've got a personal relationship with. They control both sides and they can clear stuff instantly. It's a massive selling point.
Like on my phone, I can see when Ian rings me, I can say, oh, that's Ian's number, right, here we go. It's him again, right, what do you need? And it's like having that sort of relationship with the clients and with the other companies is really important, so that you can sort of react quickly and be helpful.
So basically, excuse my English here, but no fuck-ups and get your shit together and then you call. That's it.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, Eva.
Yeah, but that's only human behavior. If you have someone it's really strange, you don't answer or you don't tend to pitch those. Because after a while you realize, if I pitch this song, I don't get an answer, I can't clear it. So obviously it's no good for anyone.
Yeah, we don't have that problem, since all our tracks are actually pre-cleared already with the composers. So if a client were to choose any of our tracks or any production music tracks, they would know that they can get instant license, so straight away.
But since you have this database at Extreme Music, which is a production music company, as you said, say you want to use something, you use your database, of course, but if someone wants to write something for you, how does that work?
If somebody wants to write music
for you, how does that work? Do they approach you and say, what do you need? Or I have this bells here, could you please put them in a Volvo commercial?
In two ways, I guess. Composers that, send in demos and suitable tracks to us, just like they do to record companies and other original publishers like yourself.
But they're required to write stems as well, or
once we sign contracts with the writers, we want them or prefer them to supply us with everything, with instrumental versions and the stems and everything,
stems are brilliant if you can supply them. When I tend to use stems within the mix, so because everything for theatrical is mixed 5:1, so it's surround sound, it's great to be able to add some extra bass at the back of the cinema. So it's brilliant, if you know that stems are available, that can make the mix and the film seem all the more better for it.
Do we need to explain the word stems here? Yes.
So stems are the output from the recording software. Sorry, stems are the output from the recording. I was trying to think while I was speaking. The output from the recording software that basically means that, like, if you were recording an orchestra, you'd be able to go, those are the flutes, those are the violas, those are the...
Yeah, all the different elements. So you can isolate the bass or the strings or,
That's what we try to get from the producers while they're in the studio, not 15 years later.
Yeah.
You're right. For older recordings, we wouldn't have that. Some recordings we've got, they're only mono. So it's definitely sort of a new thing, but it's a useful thing to sort of set yourself apart, I suppose, if you can supply them. We have for the contemporary artists that we sign, or the contemporary songwriters that we sign, we always get instrumentals, but that wasn't it's not usual for David Bowie. He wouldn't have submitted his vocal version and his instrumental version at the time, and so that simply doesn't exist. And I suppose you have to bear that in mind if you're a TV producer and you're looking for an instrumental. They just don't exist on catalog sort of pre-95, probably. 90, maybe.
And then we have the other thing that you're representing two different deals here. We have the master tapes, which is the recording of the actual song, the famous whatever song, Kraftwerk, Bowie, bad examples, all of them, but whatever, if you want to use that. And then you have, of course, the publishing. You could do the cheaper version that you, my words, that you have someone else doing a cover of it, if you don't clear the rights from the master tape. Is it more difficult or easier, or what is your view there?
It depends on the song. There are certain songs that are very straightforward to clear. There are certain songs that are very hard to clear. But if you have a tight budget, then you can definitely clear a sort of a massive Carole King song and get someone to cover it, and maybe not pay them the exact same amount that you would pay Carole King. But that's sort of understood that that there is a difference in sort of the, I don't know, not the quality, but the sort of the history of each one. It sometimes happens. I mean, in the UK, there's a lot of adverts that are young singer-songwriters covering massive songs, and they don't tend to get paid the same amount as the publisher. There was a Sony, I think it was a Sony 4K advert. There's John Lewis adverts where they've all got these sort of moody covers or stripped back covers.
So that's the basic of it, how it works, what they do, and so on. So let's move on to the other part of it, the hardest thing of the sync and so on. Sometimes sync is not a good thing, especially not for artists and so on. Eva, you were on to that. Could you please elaborate on that?
The artist is the face. They have a career to think of. It's not always their songwriter is known. The artist could obviously be a songwriter as well, but it is the artist that is, you know, doing the interviews or playing their songs on TV, and we're doing all the promo. So for our part, it could be a bit more sensitive in what way the artist would do something. Because sometimes it could be like corny things where they want the artist to be in a commercial or stand with the product.
Okay, worst example ever. You don't have to mention names, just mention details and names and products.
I can't.
And you get sued.
Yeah. There are certainly sort of brand partnerships and syncs that have not resulted in the artist doing very well from them in terms of their public
I don't
perception.
have any ideas of my own, because obviously we turned them down. But I could tell you some that I don't like, that I wouldn't go through with. And
the
that
diplomatic way of it, yes.
Yeah. For instance, I don't know if Rolling Stones knew what Dressman was when they sold their music to that chain.
And I have to say, if we have anyone responsible for that, you have to please stand up.
Sorry, they probably got lots of money, but for me, you know, it's my personal point of view, that wasn't that the best thing to do. Or Backstreet Boys dancing around singing Larger Than Life. It's not really top-notch for me.
John.
I think we missed
Sorry
all
if
that.
if I offend anyone, but
one can perhaps summarize it like very local markets and big artists and some kind of miscommunication in between.
Yeah.
And when we say Dressman, that is a clothing company, clothing brand,
okay.
that is more average, I would say.
I see.
Nothing to say.
I think it's a common thing for we have UK writers that don't approve for the UK market because they want their sort of UK fans to still perceive them as being the band rather than sort of selling out. And so we do have.
Oh, they're still talking about that, selling out.
Well, I think it's hardly a problem anymore. But I mean, certainly 5 years ago we had songwriters who were like, "Nah, I don't want to do that, thanks." But I think you can sort of structure a deal so that, say, world excluding UK, if you wanted to sort of protect your sort of the history of your written music or albums.
So it's like Lost in Translation, that
it's
movie.
Exactly like Lost in
Bill
Translation.
Murphy, this is his name, right? He goes to Japan and do like a whiskey commercial, and nobody would see him.
We have Iggy Pop. Do you remember he did that car insurance thing in the UK?
Yeah.
And there's a funny story. Apparently, someone's like saw him backstage, or he goes, "Oh, my kid loves that advert," and Iggy Pop's like, "No, shh, shh, shh. there are American people nearby. Shh, I don't want them to know. It's like, so I think.
But he knew.
He knew. He definitely knew. But I think it's less of a problem now. But that sort of selling out thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's only related to ads. Sorry for going on.
It's all right.
I think there's less of a stigma for film and TV shows. There's less of sort of a feeling that someone's sold out, than if they were sort of sipping on a fizzy drink.
Yeah, because sometimes you get the feeling that the status or the awareness of sync and synchronization is a kind of is rising, and it's not something, as you said before, Eva, someone in the reception did before, and like clearing the catalog and so on, that it's actually on the rise. You were saying?
Oh, sorry, I forgot now.
I threw you off. Maybe we could just hang on to that then? Or do you want to continue?
I'll come back on that. Yeah, no, I thought, we have some issues with artists that don't want to be part of like political messages, and they say no to like the meat industry because they're vegetarians and stuff like that. So those things can happen. I just remembered.
And that applies for the different songwriters as well. Don't use my song in this
definitely.
kind of
There's like
so how do you solve that then? You have this really amazing deal going, and you see like cha-ching, and you see like, oh, this is the future, and you just go, what do you do?
As Sony ATV, our priority is the songwriter and their sort of wishes. If there's a cigarette, I don't know if you have cigarette advertising over here. We don't in the UK, but in our Italian office might do a sort of a cigarette deal, and some of our writers will just say, no, I do not want to have my music associated with that, and it might be millions and millions of pounds, but it's not necessarily something that you can just sort of pay for.
No.
There is still a possibility for a writer to say, no thanks, for a sort of a commercial catalogue. It might be a bit different for you guys.
Yeah, so before, it's pre-cleared with the composers already.
So the catch for the production music is that you can't have the exclusive right to a song.
No.
Right. But you can sell it wherever you want?
Yeah, wherever you want and to whatever you want.
Yeah. So it could be like a cigarette commercial and so on.
Yeah,
you have to be aware of that when you
so
when you end up in a catalog.
When you sign off the tracks to us, that's in the contract, and they are aware of it. Of course, it will get paid for each license and each sync and all the performances, of course, but they can't say, no, sorry, I don't want to be in the shampoo commercial only with the nice cars.
Yeah.
They can't do that.
It's part of the deal, not audio.
Yeah.
So let's go into the heavy stuff then. Money. We have to ask, right? You are interested in money, aren't you? Yeah. We go from here.
Generally, say for a UK commercial, generally it's more usual that they'll just clear for the UK. If another company comes along and says, we'd like to also use that song, then we're not obliged to, but we always say, just so you know, there's a butter brand that are looking at this song for their ad as well. And sometimes they're cool with it and they go, well, fine, it's a great song. Like Pharrell's Happy was used a lot, for instance, and he was like, it's fine. If the brand is fine, then I'm fine. You can pay for a sort of a term and a territory of exclusivity as a client if you wanted to sort of say, I don't want any other butter brands to use. I don't know why I said butter.
And then the cars?
Yeah, a car, that'd be better. I don't want any other car or automotive brands to use this song for the period of my license, but that would usually cost more. That it wouldn't, if they did a UK deal, it wouldn't generally rule it out of a US deal as well. Is that answer?
Yeah, thanks.
How long is that period usually for when they sign into the deals?
It's usually for the term of the license. So I mean, it's horses for courses. Do you have that phrase over here? Horses for courses. So if a client wants to license the track for a year and they want to have exclusivity for the year, then that's what they say and that's what they get quoted for, sort of thing. It just depends on what they require, really.
You were saying, Ian, no? Right. And that was the answer to your question as well. So, about the money, I have to ask, because I really want to know. with the rates? I know that you can't go into specific deals, of course, but what should you aim for? What is a good deal, and how do you make the deals?
I mean, in my world, there's so many variables. If you're trying to work out how to quote for a sync, I think you have to speak to people that might know. You know, ask people. Hopefully, you trust the supervisor or the person who's come to you enough to say, "Look, this is what we have, and so this is what we want to pay you." But it's a massive variable. Obviously, you would pay more for a massive song in a big budget film than you would for an absolutely unknown song in a film or a student film or a short film with a minute budget. It's such a varying scale, but hopefully, like I try and be very, very transparent with what I have. You know, I would come to you and say, we'd like to use this song in this scene for this term, for this territory, for these media, and this is what we can afford to pay you. And I'd like to think that you would take a view on it and think, well, it's worth more over the next 20 or 30 years to have that relationship with me or another supervisor and know that you can turn it around quickly than it is to maybe ask for another £500 or whatever the figure is. I do think it's very, very important. If I came to you and just said, oh, it's a scene in a bar, we've just got some background noise, ultimately there's probably every single person in this room could give me a song that would work in that scene. Whereas if I came to you and said, oh, this is, you know, a big montage moment where the man and his wife split up or get married, and it goes over these scenes and then takes them off onto the plane, onto the honeymoon, or it goes over the end credits title, you know that that's worth more than a background. I think, you know, don't be afraid to ask, how long is it in for? How's it being used? Sometimes, like I've had one with Jon where we've actually sent, this is this week, where they said we want to see the scene, so we've sent them a quick time of the scene. But you have to make your own judgment about, is this going to delay? Am I going to move on and go to something else, or can you do all these things quickly and actually get it over the line? Because that's the most important thing. I don't know if that
so
sounds...
it's the dignity of the exposure as well. I mean, not how long you hear the song for, in what, it's more like, say, in a Hollywood movie and so on.
I mean,
I would say commercials, because they're really tied with the brand, with a specific thing they want to sell. They need to pay more than in a movie. And as you say, in a documentary or a short film, they don't have the same amount of money to pay for music. So it's different. And then you always need to ask the person that comes to you about the terms. Obviously, the period, what media, how is it going to be used? Because it could be worldwide, or it could be only Norway. It could be like for perpetuity, for all time, or it could be like for 3 months. It could be, if it is in an opening credit, the song, then it's also more tied to the film than it is usually a lot of the sync requests we get. It's like 15 seconds in a scene. You hardly hear the song.
Yeah.
So.
But come on, how much is it worth? Say like a 30 minutes ad or 20 seconds, 20 minutes ad, that would be long. 20 seconds. just you know, if you just shoot from the hip, it doesn't have to be like a big
Are you talking about
shot.
what media? Is it going on cinema?
We talk the
So if it was UK TV for a year, then it's what, like for a sort of I don't know. This is really difficult. It could be between 20 grand and anything, infinity.
20 grand, then you mean?
Sorry, pounds.
Pounds,
So that's.
And it would be, if it would be like a big commercial with a big like Coca-Cola or something in that range, there would be a lot of more money.
Sometimes, yeah. If it's if it's a butter company, then it might be it might be quite low. But if it's a sort of a massive multinational, then the quote tends to be higher. If it's a massive song, the quote gets higher.
Yeah.
If
It depends on what the artist, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I think we have great, we don't know how to, people think it's really strange that we have price on people's creativity and especially music. And when you look at all the problems we've had in the record business with piracy and stuff, people perhaps think that music is kind of free. It's really, really important to have like a level of pricing when it comes to music, because we can't really face a future where, like as it has happened in Germany, that TV stations with trailers do want the record company and the publisher to pay to get the song on a trailer. So it's really important to have like a healthy price range also. So the clients, as you say, we work with the same clients over and over again, so you want to have a good relationship with everybody. But the artist is also really the main thing, because we discuss obviously with the artist and the management, and some of the artists is really expensive and really hard, and you get really surprised. You don't really know before, if you haven't worked with them before, what are their opinion about the price. Some are really, really easy. And then obviously we need to have always this kind of the same level of payment to the publishing side and the master side. We keep
With the different,
on the same
but
level.
I'm just going to let Mimi in here. Is it a bit different for you because you have the rates, or do you have?
Yeah, well, there's no difference between track A and track B or song 1 and song 2 in our library. They cost the same, so it doesn't matter if you choose this track or that track. But of course, the price always decides on what you want to do with it. If you want just for little Sweden, or if you want it for worldwide, or if you want many medias and so on. And I think, even if it's more of maybe a budget alternative to use production music. I mean, we take great pride in our music, and it's a really high quality, and we wouldn't dream of giving the stuff away.
Yeah, I think
so I think it's.
But if you mellan tummen och pekfingret, I don't know how you said that in English, but if you say like a normal song, TV ad, Swedish market, or maybe Swedish Nordic market for 3 months, what would that be worth?
A TV commercial, I would say we take a minimum of 1 year.
Yeah.
And if it's just TV, it would be between 5,000 to 10,000 maybe. Something like that, for just Sweden. And then if you want to add the world, you have to add at least 500% or something like that. Yeah.
I'm pushing this to know people, so people can be aware of how much money they will make, or what it's worth for you guys getting in the business, or getting associated with a different brand and so on.
I think it's really important to remember that your, as a group of songwriters, your music has value, and don't believe people when they come to you and say, "Oh, it'll be great. You'll sell 10,000 CDs off the back of this sync." Like, that doesn't always happen, and you have to maintain the value of your work. I think when I was quoting earlier, if it was sort of a standard UK advert, would probably be around 50 grand for the publishing, and then probably another 50 grand for the master. Like, that isn't that sounds like a hell of a lot of money to if you just sort of spout it off, but when you sort of bear in mind that this brand are getting such a lot from marrying your music to their sort of image, and it's not an insignificant thing, I think.
So when it comes to the different markets, I mean, we can have like music in exhibitions, in commercial, as we said, different advertising and so on, films, TV series, which is very popular now, all the Swedish music in the American TV series and so on. What do you think about the different markets? Where to aim, and what are the pros and cons?
We aim everywhere. We try to, I guess.
Which is easiest then?
Easiest.
Or most, let me put it like this, which is the big elixir, the one that you want to, the big prize, the thing that you really want to aim for, which is the best status mark.
Is US, always US for Swedes.
US, right. US and commercial side, or a drama, or what?
Yeah, people get really impressed, by the fact that they are in Grey's Anatomy or those American or HBO series and stuff. And you probably don't agree with me, but US is also a very huge market.
Yeah.
But and it's been really popular to use Swedish music, indie music, a lot in American TV series, and but on the other hand, they don't think they want to pay that much for it then, so they go to get to Little Sweden to get the music.
So we're talking about 10,000 there as well.
Yeah. So it's not. I wouldn't. If I was an artist or a songwriter, I wouldn't quit my day job. I wouldn't quit it if I was signed in a record deal. And I wouldn't quit it because I thought I would get syncs. So I don't think not a lot of people can really live a rich life from being synced. I don't think so.
Yes, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of perceive that there's sometimes, like you said, the Holy Grail, that everyone in here or everyone who's making music wants to get their music on Grey's Anatomy, and I think it's probably a better strategy to take a step back and think, who can you target? Because the supervisors that do those shows are inundated with so much music, and they have so many relationships with people that they have their inner circle that they trust. And I think you coming in from the outside, it's going to be very, very hard to make any noise. And I think you should make a conscious point to target people who you think would be interested in your music. If that ends up being in an exhibition space or an art installation or whatever it is, it's a far better or more intelligent way to approach sync, because you're going to develop that relationship with those people, and that person who put on that exhibition space might be doing the opening ceremony to the Winter Olympics next year. People work within different media. It's the same. I used to do a contemporary drama called Waterloo Road on the BBC, and we used probably 25 bits of music every episode, and everything was brand new. And it's through and so in those days, anyone that sent me music that week, I would listen to it and I would probably use it. If it was good, I would use it the following week, and then the next week I'd get sent a whole new raft. The projects that I work on at the moment are so specific that I'm not necessarily listening to something that you send me this week or next week. I'm getting to a point where I stop and have the chance to listen. But there are shows in England like Made in Chelsea that are almost doing that again. I'm sure that if you send Andrea Madden, who supervises that and does a great job, and there's such a buzz around the music on that show, but she will embrace all that new music. And I think you've got to look at that. You've got to look at who's doing what and who's doing interesting stuff and that fits with the music that you make, and try and build a relationship with them. I think it'd be far better to try and target 4 or 5 people that will react and listen to your music and you can develop that relationship with, than to construct some really fancy email out and blanket it to 500 supervisors who probably aren't going to listen to it.
So it's better to connect with some people and find your own way, find your own little pond to swim in, if I may say so.
Yeah, I mean,
and try to build relationships from both sides and to make it stick.
I mean,
yeah.
I hope that doesn't sound negative,
sake.
because you might be able to send a track to the supervisors who do Grey's Anatomy and it might be perfect, but I think to try and develop the relationships with the people is the most important thing. Yeah.
I know it's the day after Grammys. How many was at Grammys, by the way?
Blimey.
All right. So it's not just us being very slow up here. Let's do it like this. If you guys could put on a track from a very, very well-known song that's been used over and over again in sync music, and while we're looking and watching and hearing that song, please take a moment, a deep breath, think of whatever you want to ask these competent people about within sync, and then we'll slowly start to wrap this up. Did you have a question right now?
As we were saying earlier, the local office will have those sorts of relationships in terms of Sony ATV. So in our Ubisoft is based in Canada, so our Canadian office will deal with them. We do a lot of PlayStation stuff out of London. Xbox stuff tends to get done out of LA. So if you are signed to a major, having sort of an office in each of those territories is really helpful. If you're not signed to a major, then again, it's a case of sort of building those relationships and making sure that the people that are making the decisions on what's going to be on Grand Theft Auto's radio stations, it's important to make sure that they are the people that you are targeting. Is this for like syncing your stuff or writing bespoke stuff, or like composing a score to the game?
It's mainly for it's both songs, but also produced music, like composed, specially composed music.
So again, it's so if you want to get your song on Grand Theft Auto or a Assassin's Creed trailer or something like that, then it's making sure that you're getting in touch with the right department or the right local office. If you're writing stuff, if you're sort of scoring stuff for film, TV, games, whatever, it's really useful to have a good show reel that demonstrates that you're capable of sort of working to a picture and designing something from scratch that goes to picture. We have a lot of writers on our books who go, yeah, I really want to write for a film, really want to do a Hollywood film, and it's like, that doesn't happen. You don't just go, I've got a #1 hit, so I'm going to do a Hollywood film. You have to start those relationships, build those relationships, practice and all that sort of stuff.
But if you don't have a publishing deal, if you're on your own, you're sitting there composing music, what is the best way to go about? Is it to call a publisher, or is it to have an independent music supervisor?
I mean,
or is there...
for say a computer game,
a video game,
if I were you, I'd be getting in touch with local video game designers and just offering your services in a manner that that they respond to, like making sure that you are approaching the people whose games would fit your music would be a good start, and working from there. It's so difficult to just go, right, I'm now going to try and get in touch with Rockstar and try and write the score to Grand Theft Auto. It is, again, we've been saying it all the time, it's about relationships, it's about building those sort of connections with the people that make the decisions, and that's the way, I suppose.
Eva, want to add something?
Right, and now I forgot it again. Thinking about other things.
I spoke too long, I think.
It's all right. Video games,
no,
how to do?
We don't have that many clients, Swedish clients, video games here. But what was it I was going to say? I don't remember.
The follow-up question that I asked was, if I'm an independent musician or composer and want to get into this video game industry. Yeah. Go on.
I was at the Grammy yesterday, so. Yeah, it's also that you could think that you've sent an album or 5 songs to someone and that is done and you're finished with that. But it's, as you said, the supervisors or the clients are really into what they're actually working at the moment. So if they want rock for a scene, a song, or you send pop songs, they won't listen to it. So you need to be with this relationship we're talking about. You need to know what is the next step? What kind of music would you like in 6 months or 3 months or now? So you target the kind of music they're actually looking for. That's really hard because a lot of people don't want to share what they're, the bureaus and stuff. They're really secretive about the coming new Volvo campaigns and stuff. But still, it's a timing thing. Yeah. And I wouldn't say send too much music is no good either. Because
so it's
they
timing,
don't listen.
Connections, relationships, as we say here, and the timing and knowing what they're after. If you want to go into that, if you want to compose for something. The other thing is that I got this brilliant track and you're, if you don't use it, but that's another, you have to be really pushy.
And when you're building a relationship, it's like being best friend with someone. You need to be really service-minded, as we were speaking about before. You need to have, know that you can have a clearance really quick and to service them.
So again, get your things together.
I chose this one because it's here. You can see that they edit the song a lot, and that is one thing we've touched base on today. It's not the original version really, but they re-edit it. Warner, we have a Blue Swede and Björn Skifsten, obviously, and I think Sony ATV has Mark James, the songwriter. And this is a song that opened the doors for Swedish music abroad. It's 40 years old. I thought
Hooked
it
on
was
a
a good
Feeling Blue
example
Swede.
that some songs can live a good life in the sync market, because also Tarantino picked it up in the 90s. It was in his films, and it has been in Japanese like drink sodas, and it's been all over the place. And now, like, it was released like in the 74, I think, and it was the same year that ABBA won and Eurovision, and so it was kind of the start of the Swedish music wonder, and it's still used. So I thought it was.
It is, and we all have a different relationship to that song, I guess. Jan Schiff's Blue Swede, Hooked on a Feeling, is the title of course, you know. Just quick round, good or bad? That just good or bad?
I think it was fun. Oh, sorry, good.
Good.
Semi-good.
Oh, come on.
Okay, it was good. It's good.
Yeah?
It's good.
Yeah, very good.
And you?
Obviously good.
And I will totally shut up here, I guess.
So that was not the main song they wanted from the beginning.
Oh, could you tell us what they were looking for? Or
They didn't
something?
tell us.
They didn't tell us, but it was the third choice.
Yes, it was the first choice.
And it's, of course, a massive hit in the
The
commercial
director
thing.
chose
Yeah.
this because obviously this guy is from left Earth in the 70s, so everything is listening to is from that era.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to say that there is another dimension to it all that I forgot to talk about, and that's when things go viral, if you know what I mean. We have the epic split from Volvo. Was it Enya and Jean-Claude Van Damme with the trucks? Do you know that commercial? What should you think of when something becomes viral, in the words that it's bigger, the commercial or the sync gets bigger than you thought? What is the main thing to have in mind?
You can't guess that it'll happen, and it's very difficult to get anything once. This is why the negotiation process is so important. Like when you are negotiating your music to be used, you have to be aware that it could go viral, and you have to be happy that if it does go viral in the sort of the terms that are agreed, then you have to be okay with them. Like you can't turn around and go, oh, this is done really well, so now we want another 10 grand or something like that.
So when the deal is set, it's set. You can't renegotiate it.
Yeah, you can negotiate if it comes up for renewal or if the term expires, but you can't sort of go, oh, this is better than I thought it was, or this is worse than I thought it was. I want more money.
No. Best thing is to try to clear as much as you possibly know in advance.
At the first choice.
Yeah.
Ian?
I mean, I just relate it slightly to an overall point, which is that if you are weighing up all, is this going to go viral, is a bit like when people say, oh, my music is so syncable. I think you run the risk of it feeling quite contrived, generally. You know, ultimately, if you send me a good song, if it's a good song, then I might use it. If you're going, oh, this is so syncable, then it jars a bit. And I think it's the same with the viral thing, is that you just have to be happy that it's gone like that. I don't know how they set out the deal, but
I did.
oh, you do, yeah. Well, I mean, bizarrely, like this is embarrassing. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I'm so oblivious to this thing that I only saw this for the first time 2 weeks ago when I was on a jury for a Music and Sound Awards, and it absolutely blew my mind. The epic split. I thought it was amazing. But the use of music in it was brilliant as well. And I sent it to one of my mates, but then realised that there was 77 million people had seen it before me. And he just said, you didn't see this 6 months ago. But I didn't, you know.
It's the new media models. I can tell you all about it. Working in TV business. There is no media business anymore.
Pen and paper.
Yeah. First let Ivan, then we'll let the audience in. Short.
We could not foresee that this was going to be so big.
But it could be a push from the commercial side that, oh, it will be viral, you will earn so much for this when they come to you.
Yeah, it wasn't the case because, and I thought you thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a bit strange because they had chosen the song before, so it's not. I haven't been involved with that.
You're talking about the epic split, and you're talking about the use of Enya now.
Enya, our master Enya. I thought it was like the people that like Van Damme and big trucks. Do they actually listen to Enya? Was my first.
You go target group.
Yeah. For me, it was really strange. But then they got huge, as we all know now. We didn't know that when we were doing the deal, so we could have got a little bit more money, I think. But still. this is one of the few examples we can see in a record business that the CD or the music actually sold more, a lot more over the whole world.
So it could push your career.
It's not very common,
or the
but
song.
in this case, it happened.
Yeah.
It goes back to the question that someone asked about using the same song in an advert twice. No word of a lie. I mean, in England, I don't know if this is the same in Sweden, but Van Damme's a bit of a laughing stock, and he advertises a thing called Coors Light. I don't know, does he do that over here? No?
Advertises what? I'm sorry.
It's an American beer called Coors Light, and he literally ridicules himself in the advert. People throwing snow at him. Maybe get it on YouTube. He's a parody of what he is, and even 20 seconds into watching that advert, I thought someone was going to throw snow over him and he was going to reveal the beer. I didn't know what was coming, so I think it's so brave of Volvo to put him on that advert. And it was amazing. Generally, when I clear stuff for film, I'm clearing it for worldwide, in perpetuity, all media. So literally, I'm clearing it for everywhere, for everything, forever. But you do the deals in principle, and there's always a clause in all the agreements that just says if this composition is not in the final edited picture as generally released, you don't pay it. Now, from a publisher or record label point of view, there is instances that you might want to protect that, so you could potentially get a holding fee, particularly if it's a long period, like I might come to you now, but the film might not be released for 18 months, and you might want to see something, so we might give you, that's right, isn't it? We might give you like a holding fee that also, from our point of view, is good, because it protects the price of the fee. So, in that 18-month period, suddenly the artist might go stratospheric, and we know that we're not going to have to pay double in 18 months. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
We have a question over here.
I haven't heard that.
It's in America, yeah? That's how they operate.
Was that the answer? That is in America.
I guess that is how it works over there. I think from an independent perspective, that's very frustrating because you're depending on cash flow, and you need to know that the month after next is covered. I think in Britain, it can be the same thing. So I might say, we've got this scene, we want to use your music in the club. Yes, it's in. Then we go through the edit, and then we probably go around final mix. So as long as you know it's definitely in the final mix version of the film, then we would go to license, and you could get paid then.
But I would say it's even more so from when we do a sync and it makes the cut, and we then let the artist know, because they probably have it on the website or in the trailer or some kind of marketing.
Yeah.
The problem is letting the artist know when they're going to get paid, and that's if we don't know, they're always on the phone. Well, can we invoice you now? And we go, no.
Yes, I can see it's frustrating. I don't know what the equivalent is.
Is there a possibility that it wouldn't? I'm sorry to be interrupting, but is there a possibility if the track wouldn't, or the song wouldn't make the final cut?
Yeah.
What happens then?
Well, that's it. I mean, all we've done, I've come to you for approval on that song, and
if they don't use it,
I would come back to you after final mix saying, this is definitely in the final mix. I can confirm that we're using this song, and let's go to license. So I think you just have to accept the process. I understand that the American model of 3 months after TX is a very long time to wait. But
I'm sorry, Eva.
I'm keeping talking about this hooked on a feeling again. But we cleared the track like 2 years ago, and it was opening this summer, and I think it was about then. But it took like 1 year, 1.5 years before the money were paid. So, and it usually takes a lot of time. And I also have the artists that for them it could be a lot of money they're waiting for, like Merit Hemmingsson, where in UK, an Arla commercial. She was sitting there, you know, it was perhaps a difference for her if she could buy what kind of Christmas present or not. We are dealing with people here, and that it's really frustrating that the money will go. We don't know when they are actually invoicing. U.S. office is invoicing the client, and how long before the client's money come into the U.S. office, and when do the money from the U.S. office come?
Yeah. So the basic truth here acknowledged is that if you are a songwriter, you should have your things together and be really quick, and you guys are supposed to clear it really quick, and then there is a vacuum of time, and then we know if the money comes or not. And they do have that option that it's not going to make the final cut, so sorry, screw you, you're not in. So that's the reality of things.
It's a very long process. I mean, you shoot in one day, you film 1 minute of the film.
Yeah.
So you know, take that process to the rest of it, and it's a very, very long process to create a 90-minute film or an hour TV.
But mind you, I'd like to stress this: no commercial without music or sound. No film emotion without sound or music. Press that next time you're negotiating, I guess. You guys are professional, you know what you're doing, but since the independents are coming up really hard, so. I'm trying to wrap this up now. If there's anything more I'd like you to share, please don't be afraid. Take 10 seconds more to think. Is there anything you would like to ask this brilliant panel about? Or you're all feeling like now is the time for coffee?
You got a question.
Hugely hungover. Sorry, we have one more question over here.
It doesn't happen often. It usually happens on those sort of covers that I talked about. I think, and I've never known it to happen on anything other than a cover. And what we don't do is we don't say they have to charge this much, and we want to charge this much. We would say, say an up-and-coming artist covered a Beatles song, then we would say this is for the Beatles song, and we don't want the artist to go MFN with us. Or yeah, we don't want the artist to go MFN, and it's up to you to negotiate with the master owner, the record label.
Eva, you want to share something as well?
No, I just thought when we're wrapping up that if anyone have questions for me or want my card, I can lay some there. You can pick it up, and if you want to mail me or send me music, I love it. You're welcome.
Not very often at all. I think it would relate to either if I was working on a project that depended very heavily on a catalogue. So you're doing you know, a deal across a catalogue with one or two publishers, and those songs or that catalogue is absolutely instrumental to making the film, that you would offer them a holding fee as sort of to honour the deal. I don't think it comes up very often at all. I mean, again, the only other thing that if you were doing that song and you knew that it was going to be an 18-month gestation period, you might want to put something across just to secure that deal. Because, I mean, I guess that's the other point, is generally most publishers or labels will have an approval period. So at the bottom, I'll give them the request, and they might say this quote is valid for 28 days, this quote is valid for 90 days. You know, generally with me, I'm not saying people wouldn't honour that, but it would take a brave publisher to come back on the 29th day or the 91st day and say, oh, it's just doubled, because they want to hopefully maintain the relationships. But I don't think holding fees generally exist outside of very big projects or catalogues.
Thank you.
Sure. So I think we conclude today that pick and choose. When the deal is done, the deal is done. Have everything in it. Be aware of viral success or viral spread. You can't control it, believe me. When it happens, all good for you. Relationships. Build your relationships. Be very specific. Hold on to the relationship. Think and pick and choose yourself, your own creativity. Have that work for you. I, for one thing, have learned one thing today, which was really brilliant. That was that Hooked on a Feeling was the third choice for that commercial. I think that's brilliant. So I'd like you please to stand up and take a bow. The brilliant panel from Sony ATV UK Creative Licensing Manager Jon Pugh. We had an extreme...
Please stand up.
Take a bow.
Oh, shit.
Extreme Music, Mimi Bashiri. We have, of course, our independent music supervisor, Ian Cook, and from Warner Music Scandinavia, Eva Hellefors. My name is Petra Markgren, not Markgren Wangler, as I said. Thank you ever so much for coming, and I hope you learned something.
Stort tack till Petra.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.